Shannan Harris. Welcome to For the Record. For the first time in decades, the United States is falling behind other nations when it comes to medical innovation. Why is this happening and what can be done about it? Former U.S. House Majority and Minority Leader Richard Gephardt is here. He's now chairman for the Council of American Medical Innovation, and he's here to tell us why it is so important for the United States to take action now to stop this trend. So first of all, can we talk about what is exactly meant by medical innovation?
Well, it's a hard set of words, and a lot of people don't understand it. What it means is, how do we find cures? Or how do we find ways to manage chronic disease more successfully so that people can lead healthy lives, continue to work and produce, and be an active part of their family and their community and their country. And we've done very well at it, but we're not doing as well today as we have been in the past, and we need to really look at the whole system and how it needs to be fixed.
How do we know that the U.S. is slipping in global leadership in this area?
Well, there are a number of indicators. First of all, the number of patents that have been issued in the United States in the last 5 years has dropped off pretty dramatically, and the number of patents that are going to scientists in other countries is picking up. We know that Europe, for instance, one of our big competitors, is putting a lot of attention into medical science and research because they realize it's so important to their economy and it's important to their healthcare costs. So there are a lot of ways to know that we're falling behind. We're still the leader, but we're closer to second place than we used to be, and we need to stay in first place.
How much of our economy is dependent on this?
Healthcare writ large is 17% now of gross national product. That is a huge number. I don't think there's anything else that comes close to that much of our economy. And to give you another statistic that I think is really impressive, in the last 2 years, while every other industry has been shedding jobs, healthcare has been adding jobs. 700,000 new jobs in healthcare in the last 2 years in the teeth of a recession. Finally, healthcare is now the biggest employer in every city in America. So that shows you what a tremendous impact this whole industry has on the American economy.
Why are we losing ground when it comes to medical innovation?
It's a lot of different reasons. There's no one single cause of this problem, and we've tried to identify those reasons in our report. One of the reasons is that we've not paid enough attention to how we get through what we call the valley of death. By that I mean, after you finish your basic research, which we do very well at, we spend $30 billion a year at the NIH to fund basic scientific biologic research. But we have much more trouble than we used to taking those basic ideas and translating them into commercial, pharmaceutical, or device products that can actually help people overcome health problems. And so getting through that valley of death, now it costs a drug company or a biotech company probably $2 billion to get through the valley of death. 90% of what they try fails. So this is a huge investment of money that the private sector alone can no longer make. So we need private-public partnerships to do some of that so-called translational research, so we have more things coming out of the pipeline to really help people get over things like Alzheimer's and cancer and what have you.
So what areas of innovation show the most potential right now?
Well, it's a really good question, because right now we're on the cusp or the threshold of a whole lot of discoveries that will really move the needle for a lot of people. And the reason I say that is about 10 years ago we started what we call the Genome Project. So now we are beginning to have the capacity to learn your gene map. And if we know your gene map, we know what diseases you're most likely to come down with and problems you're to have. And then we can intervene early in the process to solve that problem before it becomes a problem. And so that's really exciting. Having said that, finding those biomarkers that really identify you as a candidate for a certain remedy are hard to come up with. We need a lot more research. We need a lot more of this translational research to come up with these specific answers that will affect your genes in the best way.
How can we press upon young people the opportunities and rewards available related to medical innovation?
Well, we haven't done well enough in that, and part of that is getting young people to be excited and inspired to be scientists, to be researchers, to really study math and science and engineering and the things that we really need to do this research. When I was a young person, we had the space program and everybody wanted to be an astronaut, so a lot of my friends in school went on to be scientists because they wanted to be an astronaut. It's not really cool today to be a scientist, I don't think. And so we need more of our scientists and researchers to come out of the lab and talk to school kids, frankly, and inspire them to do what they do. I had the chance to do that recently at the University of California, and I met 8 young researchers that were trying to find answers for Alzheimer's disease. One of the young people had been working for 20 years on one aspect of the problem. And when I learned how inspired they were, how passionate they were about finding an answer to Alzheimer's, I was really inspired. And I just kept thinking to myself, we get these kind of people in front of school kids, right, we'll get more scientists.
Why are we specifically lacking in education?
I think a number of reasons. Just general education is harder today because families find it harder to deal with their kids. Everybody works. Right. There are a lot more single parent families, so kids get less adult supervision. And when you think about it, your parents are really major educators in your life outside of the school, and that's really important. I also think that science and math is kind of not cool to kids, and nobody's telling them that it's cool to be a scientist. I mean, we got plenty of things that make them want to be football players, basketball players, baseball players, whatever, but or rock stars or Hollywood stars, but there's not a lot of attention paid in the media to being a scientist, and we need more.
Television anchor.
There you go.
What can we do locally to affect positive change?
Well, you got a lot going on here in Delaware. I'm really impressed by the state. First of all, your governor is a real advocate for science and research and medical innovation and jobs. That's a great start. And you've got great institutions here of higher learning and research. Right. Biomedical centers, hospital centers that are doing a lot of this research. So there's a lot here already to build on.
How will the changes you are seeking affect us here in Wilmington if you are successful?
Well, I just think that if we really enact our agenda, if we get more medical innovation done in the United States, generally it will help areas like Delaware, like Wilmington. It's already in the forefront in this area, but can always do more. You have big companies here like AstraZeneca, 4,000 jobs here in the Wilmington area. That's a giant resource. That could be bigger. You could have other pharmaceutical and biotech companies grow up here because of the infrastructure you have for medical innovation and research. So it's a big job creator. It's a big reducer of healthcare costs, and it really improves community life in every way.
My guest has been Richard Gephardt, former U.S. House Majority and Minority Leader and Chairman of the Council for American Medical Innovation. If you'd like more information, you can go to their website, www.americanmedicalinnovation.org. For the record, I'm Shannan Harris.